Hey guys, welcome back. Now, obviously what we're seeing here is not something that I've ever had featured before, and we'll get to why in a second, but first let's cut to what this video is really about, a control setup tutorial for the AH-6J Little Bird mod. So this is something that one of my viewers requested, and I've just now gotten around to doing it, so let's go ahead and get right to it. Now, I just use the stock controls for the cold start procedure just because it's easier, and I haven't been able to get them to actually work very well on my joystick. I might try it now just to see, but no guarantees here. So first thing we're going to do is press B to turn on the battery, then hold the starter switch, and it actually is working. Must just have been a me mistake. And once we get it cold started, I'll show something that, or I'll show a trick that will help you if you only have one axis, like me, to use for something like a throttle, because helicopters actually require two. Alright, so now that we've got some good RPMs going, we're going to move the throttle into idle cutoff, continue to hold the starter switch until 58% RPM, and I'm just kind of gauging this on my own, by the way. Turn on our generator and inverter switches, and we are now cold started. Now, one thing you want to do is make sure that the collective is all the way down when you do this, and I'll explain why that is in just a moment. So let's hop in and take a look at the controls. So first we're going to go to axis commands. This is the important stuff. My collective is what is normally my throttle in other aircraft, and I don't actually have a throttle axis bound because I don't have one. So instead what I do is I have two buttons on my joystick that are one's above the other one on the top of the stick itself. We're going to go to systems, and that is what I use for throttle up and throttle down. And the reason why that is because the throttle doesn't have as much influence on the AH-6 or really any helicopter's lift capability as does the collective, because all the throttle is doing is increasing the RPM, whereas the collective is actually increasing the pitch of the blades, which is going to force more air down faster. And for that reason, you can set the throttle, and it doesn't have to be at 100%. You can just set it somewhere that works for whatever flight regime you're in, and then mess with the collective to get whatever degree of lift you want. So that's what works for me. I also have my trim set up, of course, trim hat, and that'll just about do it. I will show weapon commands in just a second. So let's go ahead, and before I do the collective, I'm going to throttle up. And the reason for that is because we want to make sure we've actually got good RPMs on here, or we will float off of the deck of the USS Oak Hill and into the water. You have to have both. You can't have just one. And believe me, I found that out the hard way. So we've actually been sent off the USS Oak Hill, which is a landing transport dock, I believe is the correct term for it, in order to help the bulk cargo carrier Handy Wind, which is in distress from a pair of small, fast, heavily armed pirate boats, which is why we are carrying a 7-shot rocket pod, a 50 caliber minigun, and an M134 30 caliber minigun. So we can see the Handy Wind is off there in the distance. We'll get there faster than the fast attack boats that have been scrambled from the ship itself. So that is why we're out here. I'll go ahead and turn master arm to on. I actually have that bound to a switch that I have. And you can just bind that control to basically anything that you want it to be. So with these two knobs, these two weapon selector knobs, I don't actually have these bound to anything specific. I just use the mouse to mess with them because I really don't have anything that can emulate this kind of thing. So it's better just to leave it like this unless you have something very specific. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing saying you can't make something like that, but it's just not something that everybody's going to have. So I'm going to switch the gun selector, which is the knob on the right, if I can grab it, to right, which is the 50 caliber minigun, the big gun. Then I'll switch the rocket selector to left, which is the left side knob, because that is where our rocket pod is. Got this puny little aiming dot here. Now, the button that is normally my flares under my thumb on my joystick is the rocket button for me, because this aircraft obviously doesn't have flares. Or maybe not obviously for some, but it doesn't have flares. We'll throttle up a little bit, see if we can get there a little faster. Now, the rockets are really difficult to aim. I probably should have swapped the minigun and the rocket pod, but it is what it is. Whoops. Having some head tracking issues here. That happens from time to time. And then my trigger just fires the gun, as you can see there. And we'll actually go see if we can at least drive these fast attack boats away from the handy wind, and maybe I'll even attempt a landing on her to help keep her safe until the CVH-90s can actually get here. Uh-oh, what's that? I hope that's not smoke. It could be, but I hope it's not. I think just off there in the distance you can see those two boats. Looks like we're dealing with... Oh, we might be a little bit late. They might have shot her up. We'll have to have a look at that. Yeah, that's definitely smoke. That's not a good sign. Hopefully we can land on her. In real life it shouldn't be an issue because these boats absolutely could not sink a ship like this, but in DCS, I really don't know how all that works. I haven't dealt with ships too much other than landing on a carrier, and unfortunately even then not that much. I'm mainly a dogfighting person. Yep, they've definitely set her on fire. I don't know where the helipad is off the top of my head on the handy wind, so if it's on the bow or the stern, I think we're okay, but if it's in the middle, I don't know that I want to land in the middle of a fire. We can just see those two boats out there. Yeah, they've definitely shot her up some. We'll see if we can give them a little payback here. This is a teaser for my next video. And I'm expecting some fire at some point. I want to get a little closer before I open up on this guy, but getting pretty close. Alright, let's not drop the collective, whatever we do, we're too low for that. Alright. Whoa! 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 Oh my goodness! Alright, well, I did not realize how heavily armed those craft were, but that is my control tutorial for the AH-6. I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you in the next video. Rifle.